Hey everybody, welcome back to Northernlion TriSeries. Binding by AFTERBIRTH Plus. Spin. Whatever happens, happens. As we go for a quarter century, it's going to be a mid character. It's Judas. You didn't need me to say it. 1BTV, VB, AQ. What do you do as Judas? In my opinion at least, one of the most effective strategies as Judas is to not get hit. This, in my personal opinion, you may disagree. We're taking them both, I forgot, but hold on. In my personal opinion, this really helps out when it comes to keeping yourself alive in particular. It's very hard to die if you don't take damage. And this is how you know I'm committed to the victory. I'm gonna sit here, perhaps not forever, but I'm gonna sit here until we have a chance to blow it up. I wanted to see if there was possibly, like, you know, maybe Fruitcake doesn't carry explosive tears, but obviously it definitely does. Yo, that's very good. This is a play that NL... in 2019, I don't think he's making that play, to be honest. Not on a consistent basis, at least. NL 2020. He doesn't mind getting his hands a little dirty. He doesn't mind doing the things you need to do to stay frosty. I mean, I honestly feel thrilled that we got Fruitcake in the first place, so we actually had a chance to do it, even if, you know, the first payout of it wasn't necessarily all that in a bag of potato chips, which is something that people say. People say it. I've heard it said. I will say, we have to be careful with Fruitcake. We don't want to... well, I still don't think I've seen a shot... okay, never mind. I was gonna say I don't think I've seen a shot explode. I think we had two, like, science tears, which worked to break... Ooh, what a shot. For me. You know, hold on. Pop this down. This could be huge. That's very, very huge. Then you pop this down, and you start to get excited because we might be looking at a pretty high momentum first floor. We still have not seen our second item room or our shop, both of which carry a great amount of potential importance for us. So we're not going to go to our second boss fight yet. Ah! Just annoying. I shouldn't stand so close. Remember what Sting said. Please don't stand so close to me. No, he's sending out an SOS because his things are dangerous. I hope that someone gets my message in a bottle. Do you guys know this? It's called Message in a... You know the song. I was trying to build a joke in my head about how, like... why don't you just send a text, Boomer? But it's okay. Doesn't really... it's not that it's like a mean-spirited joke. It's just not really particularly funny. There's not really much of a punchline associated with it. So, you know, the Galaxy Brain opinion would be like, it's an anti-joke, sweetheart. You wouldn't understand. But I don't believe that. I don't believe it. So I don't, for 7 cents, sure, I like jumper cables just fine. I think I will buy a key as well, obviously Boomerang. Doesn't really interest me. We will, keep our key supply high, because you never know what's going to happen on the next floor. I'd like to get some red hearts back as well. That's not going to help, but hey, if there's a blessing here, at least we cannot possibly encounter this item on the Deal with the Devil, where I will be forced to say, how dare you mistreat me like this? It's an insult. Instead, we are able to move on. You know, and that's good. Part of holding on is letting go, brother. If you think that's deep, I apologize. It was manufactured to pretend to be deep, and you have been taken in by the ruse. I apologize for that. I think we'll call this here. I don't want to go any deeper. Our HP is actually, like, pretty solid. Depending on this deal with the devil, and this is really a situation where I'm like, we win no matter what the deal with the devil is. If the deal with the devil is trash, great. We have 2 HP, a few spirit hearts, you know, buttressing it up. Really solid consumables for the next floor. DPS is totally fine. Like, everything's going well here. The tiers upgrade is very welcome. And Goathead, I think it's a great time to get it, honestly. Now be careful, you don't want to shoot these fires up close, because, you know, you could... Exactly, you could have an exploding tier! Very smart. Okay, let's get the heck out of town. That was a really, really solid first floor, and I do not care for secret rooms. I don't. And I don't really care for that either, to be honest. How am I doing? Thank you for asking. And I like that, you know... An Isaac episode in 2020 is structured a little bit like Saturday Night Live. It cold opens, we talk about Isaac, maybe tell a joke or two that nobody finds funny, much like the actual Saturday Night Live television program itself. And then eventually we go, you know, live from New York, it's Saturday night. It's a terrible start. We've gotten a little bit lower on HP. It's okay. Now, it was all part of an elaborate ruse. I don't mind. Okay. I gotta say, man. So, I hesitate to even go down this route, because you end up having bad bedfellows. You know what I mean by that? I think having the opinion I'm about to espouse puts me on the same side as some people who I disagree with on 99% of other issues. But some clips of SNL have gone viral recently, and every single one of them has made me like cringe through my bones started cringing through my own skin. And I know you're like, cringe is an overused word. You don't understand, this is the most appropriate use of it. Like, this is cringe incarnate. It's not like, oh, the joke is bad. It's like, oh, this comedian who, like, worked her entire life and was, like, you know, probably the funniest person in her improv group and is probably genuinely hilarious. Worked her whole life, got the nod from Lorne Michaels to go on Saturday Night Live. And then is forced on Weekend Update into this bit where she sings a song about the Joker. Joaquin Phoenix, skinny, skinny. And I was like, oh, if you haven't seen it, I apologize. But I was like, man, you know, what are you gonna do? It's your job. You can't just be like, I'm doing this bit under duress. But she sold it, and the fact that she was so genuinely enthusiastic about it, it carried an extreme distilled version of Tommy Wiseau's The Room energy, where I was like, oh, you believe in this, and that's making it so much worse. I don't mean believe what she's saying. I mean, like, she believes that the bit is good, and it was just, ugh. I've only seen 3 Saturday Night Live bits in the last 10 years, I think, okay? And I'm gonna level with you. They've all been pretty bad. I'm not trying to take down the show from the outside. I'm just like, what's going on? One of them is David S. Pumpkins, and I understand a lot of people think it's hilarious. I don't really understand it at all, to be honest with you. It's like, I don't think it's that I don't get it. I think it's that it's like a really bad version of random humor, which I tend to enjoy most of the time, as evidenced by my fetishization of I Think You Should Leave, starring Tim Robinson. I get it. It's Tom Hanks. His name is David S. Pumpkins, and he says, any questions? And the joke is, how could I not have questions, Thomas? This is so weird. But that's the best of the 3, for sure. The other one that came up recently, I like this, thank you, I appreciate this, was the cast singing All I Want for Christmas Is You to Mueller, which is just a little, like, my bones started to kind of come out of my skin a little bit. And then this one on Weekend Update. I don't know if you saw it. I might just be ranting into the ether, but I'm like, man, what happened? When I was 15 years old, when people were mad at the president, we had Jon Stewart on The Daily Show and Stephen Colbert lampooning the other side on the Colbert Report. Now you've got a Mariah Carey Christmas song parody written in 14 seconds, played in front of 11 million people. Anyway, I'm not trying to be grumpy, okay? I'm not trying to be a curmudgeon. Feel like with Saturday Night Live, like, ooh, every generation feels like the generation they watched and is the best, and the generation that, well, actually, quite the opposite. Let me rephrase. I feel like for most of my, upbringing, people were like, the current SNL's garbage. The one that came just before I was old enough to start watching it was amazing. Like, when I watched it, all the time, there was like, Will Ferrell, Jimmy Fallon, Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, Chris Kattan, Molly Shannon, etc., etc. And everyone was like, this is garbage, dude. None of these people are funny at all. Bring back David Spade, Chris Farley, Adam Sandler, Tim Meadows, Then, like, 8 years later, I felt like there was a movement where everybody was like, bring back Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, Will Ferrell, Chris Kattan, Daryl Hammond, Horatio Sands. Yeah, okay. Fair enough. This is the one where I'm like, ooh, this one, they might actually be right for the first time ever. I don't want to go too deep, but I mean, I can't really say that without having seen the show, without having seen a full episode. But I mean, I will say it is the NBC SNL Twitter account that's putting these sketches out there. So if that's the cream of the crop, I mean, let's be honest. If you've never seen Saturday Night Live, it gets like a lot of credit, and it has many, many classic sketches over its 45-year lifespan. But the average SNL episode for the duration of my existence on Earth is 90 minutes. Subtract 2 musical guests, so that's usually, let's say it's about 10 minutes. So you got 80 minutes. Subtract another, let's say 25 minutes for commercials. So you got 55 minutes of sketches. How many of them are good? Less than half, usually. And I want to be clear, they're operating at an incredible pace. They're putting out an hour of comedy on a weekly basis. That's pretty incredible in and of itself that, even some of it lands, to be honest. There's never really, I'm not saying like, oh, it's the death of the show. It's not going from a 100% batting average to 0. But anyway. So that's apparently what's on my mind today. It was not on my mind at all prior to the start of this episode. But once I started talking, it just sort of poured out. Which is a interesting way of saying that nothing's going on right now, I suppose. It's a Monday. What's a Monday look like? You go to the gym. You come back from the gym. Had to do some admin stuff. Knocked out that admin stuff. And now I'm recording Isaac. It's a pretty standard situation, to be honest with you. And that's good. I like the routine. I do. Like, sincerely do. I like to be like a metronome. I'm trying to get out of the habit a little bit. Because I'll tell you, and we're going to talk about some YouTube stuff now, if that's okay with you. If not, please leave a comment, and I will travel in my time machine to go back to before I started talking about it and change the past. To play the crappy games that, the rest. This is such a cowardly use of diplopia, but I do it every time anyway. You know what? I'll tell you what. Let's do this. That might come in handy. And then let's close Malware Bytes. And go again. See what's in here. I just don't really want to be honest. I think we fought for this run. I have ownership of it. If it gets too good, I'd love to reroll it. But right now, it's just good enough. Anyway. So, one of the things that's come up lately, and it's not a problem, if anything, it's a very quality problem to have, but people pitch me games for the Northernlion TriSeries or to play on Sunday streams. And by pitch, I don't mean like they're the developer, I mean like, hey, I think you would like this game. You should do it for Northernlion Tries. Let me start by saying, thank you. Your interest has been duly noted. So I'm just ergonomicing my chair a little bit. Your interest has been duly noted, and I do this is gonna sound backhanded, but on some level, I do appreciate the suggestions. Yikes, that hurt. But at the same time, I've had to deal with, I don't want to call it pushback, but maybe I've communicated poorly about the Northernlion TriSeries in one small way. I've complained about how, like, there's very, very little that has come out on Steam in January. Now, we're past that now. I mean, we're not past January, but, you know, there's been a lot more cool stuff that's come out in the past little bit that I've been more stoked about. But sometimes people make a suggestion, and I say, I don't think that's really a good fit for the series. And they say, like, well, you know, why are you complaining about not having anything to play then? It's not really like that, okay? I'm a firm believer, and we will take Mom's knife. I'm a firm believer that a little bit of... Let me try to think about how to put this the right way. I believe that sometimes a little bit of friction can be very good for you, you know? A frictionless existence is very comfortable, and I have respect. Oh, I thought to myself, hey man, maybe we can get a guppy item here. I'll give it a shot. Why not? Ride the hot hand, right? But I think, like, you know, here's the thing. If I think of, like, Northernlion Tries as a bucket, and, you know, the bucket constantly needs to be filled with good games, or, you know, suitable games for Northernlion Tries, and we're having trouble filling the bucket when we're looking at, you know, 500 games that are coming out every single day on Steam, maybe it's not that, you know, there's not enough water to put in the bucket. Maybe we're not in a drought. Maybe, you know, it's a good time to take a look at the construction of the bucket. Maybe it's a good time to be like, hey, we've, you know, let's rethink the way that we're going to do this series. And by we, I mean me. But, so that we can, you know, let's build a better bucket. If we're struggling to find stuff that's going to fit. So, I think, you know, having, like, a sandpaper sort of element is really useful sometimes. Like, to be honest, the piece of content that I look at the most, where this is, like, most relevant right now, is Sunday streams. So, like, if you draw, like, a delineation on Sunday streams, they started 7 years ago as being like, hey, we're gonna give back to subscribers. You know, they are, like, the lifeblood of the channel. They deserve something in return, you know, for their support. Which is not necessarily invalid. Let me hydrate here. But the way that that manifested was we would play, you know, games with subscribers, lobbies. We played Chivalry, Medieval Warfare, we played Team Fortress 2, we played Counter-Strike Global Offensive. And you're saying that sounds fun. Well, it was for, like, the first 30 weeks. And then, you know, after doing it for so long, you realize, you know, in principle, the idea, I think, is pretty good, you know? And it looks nice on the sales copy, right? You're like, hey, if you become a subscriber, you get the chance to play in private lobbies. What it led to, in reality, was, like, the same 20 or 30 people out of, you know, a number much larger than that, got to play over and over and over and over again, because the vast majority of people that were, like, watching were like, I don't really play Chivalry, so I don't really want to be a part of it. So I thought to myself, you know, we're limiting not only, like, the content, but I think I'm, like, limiting my entertainment value for doing this. So I don't know, back in, like, 2014, kind of pivoted to playing games that were Like, there's a huge blind spot in my gaming history when I went to college. Like, I played a ton of games from birth to college, and then in college, really all I played was Rock Band for like 4 years, basically, and Smash, to be fair. But yeah, basically just like party games, right? So I missed out on, you know, your Mass Effect 2s. I missed out on your Fallout New Vegas, your Fallout 3, and, you know, The Witcher 3 was another one that I didn't really miss out on, but I was like, you know, this is an opportunity to play a game that I otherwise might not have the time to play, and I think that's worked out really well. But a couple of the games, and don't shoot the messenger on this, and I'm not complaining. This is just, I'm identifying, you know, both benefits and constraints, you know, and problems here. Because for a lot of people, and I don't necessarily disagree, although I do think there's some nostalgia involved sometimes, nothing I ever do again will compare to the Fallout New Vegas playthrough for some people. And that's, it was kind of like a magical playthrough. I don't disagree. It was the perfect storm of like sandbox and objective driven. Very few games have ever hit that balance. Now personally, I kind of like the David Cage stuff that we've done a little bit more, but you might disagree, and that's fine too. Let me see if there's a guppy item in here before we get going. Book, bean, mask. Take me out. And that worked really well for a while, but I can't deny there were a couple of stinkers. And it illuminated something for me. Just because a game is great doesn't mean it makes for a great playthrough. Like Deus Ex Human Revolution, great game. Terrible playthrough. So I started thinking what makes a good playthrough, and I realized, and there's a recurring theme here, and you might disagree, by the way. You know, we got a decent amount of people here. There's always going to be some dissent. People are going to be like, you know, Human Revolution was my favorite playthrough, but most people are probably going to be like, I didn't even know you played that, to be honest. I started thinking, you know, what's the element that actually makes for a good playthrough? And I was like, you know what it is a game that allows me to be an actor in the story or the experience, instead of merely a bystander going like, wow, dude, that's Princess Zelda. So that's how we ended up with like all the David Cage games being played that went really well. Deadly Premonition, which, you know, actually would probably be my pick for the best series that we've ever done on Sundays. That's how that stuff came to pass. There's a little sandpaper there too, and the sandpaper there is very simple. There's just not that many games that fit that bill. Most games are much more interested in kind of telling their own story that is light on riff potential, instead of you know, letting the user pretend to be smarter than the people who made the game in the first place, which really makes perfect sense when you think about it. So then I was like, what are we gonna play? There's no options. That's where the indie pentathlon stuff came out, where I was like, I have no idea what I'm gonna play on Sunday. What if I take these games that I've already played a lot of and try to like repackage it into a more engaging format that people might find interesting? And it seems like it's worked really well, but some people have also said, hey, NL, the indie pentathlon was cool, but like, if you're looking for something to play, why don't you just play Super Mario Odyssey? And I'm like, you know, I've talked a lot about myself at the start of this Isaac episode so far, but I think the piece of, it's not really wisdom necessarily, but what I'm starting to learn is like, I've been in this mindset on YouTube for like years that is like, you got 3 series going at any given time, makes it very easy to determine what you're going to do that day, right? What am I going to do today? Oh, well, we're lowest on Isaac videos, so let's make some Isaac content. We're lowest on Gungeon videos, let's make some Gungeon content. Now I'm realizing I really like having kind of like a floating spot where you're like, I don't know what the heck I'm going to do with this hour, 2 hours today. And sometimes, you know, that leads to creative stuff that otherwise wouldn't have come to pass. So I guess my lesson for myself today is I'm learning to embrace that boredom a little bit, you know? Get down with the idea. Sorry, I honestly, you should take care of yourself. Do as I say, not as I do. I skipped lunch today to record this episode, so I'm taking in a protein shake. I need the calories, brother. Brain's not working right. Stop talking grocery anecdotes. Start talking about all these weird life lessons. But yeah, I'm starting to let myself hang in the ether a little bit, and I think it's working out nicely. So again, if you're making those suggestions and you're going, I don't understand why you won't just play Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, I hear you. All comes down to this idea, and now I'm getting way too into myself here. No? Oh, okay. Did you think I was talking about you? I was talking about my favorite subject, myself. Okay, everybody relax. We're on Ankh levels now. Why is the knife not killing a ghost in a single hit? Everybody please pay very close attention. Your safety is not guaranteed. I did take a lot of damage on the last floor. Anyway, suffice it to say, I do appreciate the feedback. I appreciate the game suggestions. I hope you also appreciate that I'm getting the heck out of this room, because this room seemed very, very annoying. I gotta focus 100%. Although I got a little bit of hanging focus right now because our back door was open but not closed. Have to be honest, it's like a little splinter in my brain. I'm gonna go check on that for the time being. Alright, it's closed. It's a dangerous time for distraction. This feels like a potential secret room. It was. It just kind of stunk. But anyway. One thing I've come to realize is like... And it's been a favorite subject of mine for a while, so I apologize, because it is kind of inside baseball, and I operate on the principle that people... I shouldn't talk about inside baseball so much, but a lot of people like hearing about it, so I put it out there sometimes. But I think sometimes you gotta trick people into being entertained. What they think they want to see is Legend of Zelda. What they actually want to see, something that makes them laugh. Something that makes them think. Something that makes them go, this is a different stream. By the way, this was not a busted left hand situation. I'm starting to come down on a new side of the left hand issue, which is if you need HP, or you're one item, maybe two in some situations, but if you're one item away from becoming guppy, perhaps you actually would prefer... Wow, what a snipe. Perhaps you would actually prefer to carry down the left hand because your odds of getting spirit hearts are so much higher. Yeah, amnesia. That's a good one. Hey, I hope in Repentance there's 2 amnesia pills. Sorry, that was needlessly bitter. 3 HP is A-okay. Get him. Thank you. Well, we have to watch out for. 2 HP is like 3 HP. I'm totally okay. 2 HP, I'm scared for my life. So there is a sense of real urgency right now. I would just like one more payout, please. And pheromones? I mean, pheromones is not necessarily bad. I'm looking at this floor layout and I'm like, man, that was my Canadian accent came out very strong on that one. I'm looking at this floor layout, and I'm thinking, there's no way it's the boss fight, bud. But I was freaking wrong, you know? Like the Canucks when they took Ole Uollevi with the 5th pick. Could have had Kachuk, you know? Now he's playing for the freaking Flames. What gives, Jim Benning? Tell the scouts to get it together. I don't know, we're almost getting like, weirdly... It's like Canadian Scottish, which is, I suppose, just Nova Scotian. But anyway, ooh, skirt. Okay, we've made it. It shouldn't have been this complicated, but hey. We came back from the brink. I'll take it. For now, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the episode. If you did, click the like button. Helps out a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, thanks for watching. I will see you next time. See ya!